I'd like to talk about addiction for a second and how I think we as a society, as a culture, and as a country are handling it in a way that does not help. And I think the evidence is pretty fucking clear that it doesn't help because people are still dying from it. People are still having families destroyed over it. People are still having lives ruined over it. And the numbers really haven't changed much at all. So we do a couple things as a society that are fucking terrible. Now, I'll start with the fact of how we fucking call people names that have addiction issues. Look at that selfish piece of shit junkie. I think selfishness there is the same as when someone kills themselves and people talk about how selfish it was they killed themselves. Like any argument, the mechanism is the same. Both sides are looking at the same thing but calling it something slightly different and then arguing about it. Because you know what's pretty fucking selfish? Is to say, this person should have lived their lives in the way that I wanted. And because they didn't live their lives and have their life end in the way that I wanted and I would have preferred, they were wrong. Well, that sounds pretty fucking selfish to me. Both sides are selfish. But if you want to point the finger at someone, you should always begin by pointing at yourself, I think. We also just come up with these pointless rationalizations or pointless things that we think those people are doing. Like, oh, he's playing the victim card and thinks everything's so terrible. That's why he drinks himself in a stupor. Well, how the fuck do you know? You don't, but label it up in a way so you think you can understand so you can dismiss it. We also fucking kidnap people. Lock them up, incarcerate them, hold them captive for years. Well, that shit we know is emotionally and psychologically traumatic. Why the fuck would we want to do more emotional and psychological damage to people that are probably already suffering from emotional and psychological damage? And how the fuck do we think it could make it better? You heard the phrase, 2 wrongs don't make a right? Well, it's true. So maybe we shouldn't do that. And then this last one is one that I really don't like because it tries to pretty it up a little bit more. And that's when we force people to go through rehabs or go through whatever programs that have no statistical merit that shows that they're any better than any other way of doing it. And then we call it that we're being compassionate and we're being sympathetic for these people. Well, I don't think people understand what sympathy and compassion is. I don't think being compassionate to someone is forcing them to go through what you think they should go through. I think true compassion and true sympathy for someone else is trying to figure out what's right for them in their own heart and supporting that. And that's not what that does. And I don't like dressing up any pile of shit in pretty words. I don't like bombing people and saying it's for our freedom. I don't like a bunch of people shoving someone out of somewhere, laying hands on them, and saying that they're doing it to protect safe space. I don't like fucking bigotry and racism while saying you're fighting for equality. Maybe some people fall for dressing up shit with pretty words, but I don't, and I don't like it. I think it's offensive. You should call it what it is. So these are all the things that we do as a society to people that are struggling with addiction, and then we act like addiction's an issue that we want to tackle and make better. Well, none of those things are making it better. They're not. Look at the numbers. Don't trust me on it. I'm just some guy on the fucking internet. Do your own research. And it goes on and on. Say we want less addiction, but then make laws that make hard for people to get fucking clean needles. Say we want less suffering from addiction, and then have it where people can only get dirty drugs that fuck their bodies up more. It's just fucking retarded. Let me tell you a little bit about myself for a second. I loved shooting up drugs. I did that shit for years and years and years. I loved it. and I fucked myself up. I got a staph infection in my blood. I had kidney failure from it. I went into septic shock from it. I went into a coma. I was intubated. I got endocarditis, a staph infection of the heart, which ravaged my tricuspid valve, and they had to split me open and do major heart surgery that they weren't sure I would live through to fix that. Then I had to learn to walk again. It was the most traumatic experience of my life. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Fuck, it was fucking traumatic. And I wouldn't change it for anything. And I wasn't a victim. I did that shit to myself. I'm not ashamed of it. I love me today. I love everything I am today. And that is part of me. I wear that past proud. So I've been on that side of addiction. And all those fucking mechanisms that were put in place never helped me one bit. Calling me a fucking piece of shit junkie. Well, I'm a piece of shit, so what the fuck does it matter? You know, kidnap me, lock me up for fucking years. Well, no one gives a fuck more, so why the fuck should I even care? You know, if it's only me that has to worry about it, then fucking I like shooting shit up. Forcing me through rehabs that didn't fucking have any information to offer me, and full of these fucking fallacious lines of fucking reasoning that I'm supposed to somehow take in with my mind. Well, that shit ain't gonna happen. They just forced me to be somewhere else that I fucking hated, and forced them to not like me because people don't like how I talk and think sometimes. Well, that's just some more bullshit. You know, the only thing that ever helped me ever was when I was surrounded by people at my worst that treated me like the person that they thought I could be, or they thought I was inside. Those are the times I did it best. And that brings me to this quote that I'd love to share with everybody. It applies to this, especially the last sentence, but applies to so much. So, let me read this. I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or make it joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. What they are capable of becoming. Well, if addiction does so much fucking harm, are the approaches that we're taking, that we continue to take, helping people become what they are capable of becoming? Or are we treating them in this negative way that we think they are? You know, and I've seen this play out time and time again in my life. It makes a fucking difference how you treat people, how you talk about people, what you're willing to do for people. I see people willing to help out the homeless with food and change their mind. Oh, that guy's a crackhead, never mind. Oh, you think he now doesn't have the right to eat because he's doing something that you wouldn't do? Well, how the fuck would you like it if someone thought you were doing something they didn't like and they said this motherfucker here shouldn't eat? You know, and that's what our society and culture is all about. Why? It fucking hurts people. Why call them names? Why lock them up? Why tell them how much they're fucking up life and what selfish pieces of shit they are? You know, would you like it if someone pointed at you and said all that? I would think not. So why do it to somebody else? So as a society, I believe we're looking at addiction wrong. And I've lost lots of people that I loved that were beautiful, bright, brilliant people because of addiction. And I was never mad at one of them. I was never angry about it. I had much love and compassion for them the whole time they were alive, up till their death, and continuing on to this day. And I don't understand why you'd be anything but. And the things that I've seen from both being a hardcore addict fucking myself up, and from seeing the most brilliant people I've known fucking fall and die, is that every one of us, when we were treated good, in the way that was right for our own heart and not what someone else thought, is the times we all did the best. So have you known someone that hurts, or has hurt from addiction, or has died? Do you wish it happened less? Does it hurt? Well, maybe we should look at the way we're handling it. Because things aren't changing as they are now. And I've already listed what we're doing now. So maybe it's time to take a different approach. Maybe an approach of compassion, of sympathy, of a desire to understand, of acceptance of people that are doing things different than us. And just maybe that might make a difference. We already know what's happening isn't making a difference at all. So what do we have to lose? Well, we have to lose the emotional desire to call people names, but that sounds like one we'd love to drop. We have to drop the backing of laws that take away people's freedom when they're already suffering. Well, I think that should be pretty easy to get on board with. And we have to quit forcing people to go through systems that doesn't resonate with them, compassion, because that's not what it is. So, that's a little bit about me. It's a little bit about what I think about addictions and how we as a country are fucking it up and causing more pain than good. And we're all part of society. We all add to it or take away from it in some way or another. So what's your part? What'll you do to make it better?